Which animal would you lock in a room with your worst enemy? I don't have any enemies. I'm a really nice guy. But what animal would I lock in a room with them? A honey badger. I'd do a honey badger and I'd smear them in honey beforehand. How about that? Honey badgers are amazing. They're in the Guinness Book of Animal Records as being the most aggressive animal on the planet. And they're only about that sort of size, and yet they have been seen driving lions off their kill. Not a lion, lions, plural. They have so much attitude, and yeah, they're absolutely terrifying. So yeah, I would subject my worst enemy to death by honey badger. What's the worst bite or sting you've received? That is quite a tough call to make. I can say the most painful by far is from the bullet ant. So I did a ritual with the Saterra-Maui tribe in Brazil about 15 years ago now, where the young boys, to transition to adulthood, put their hands into a pair of gloves that are interlaced with bullet ants, the world's most painful stinging insect. They're called bullet ants because one single sting feels like being shot. So you put the gloves on and you dance for about 15 minutes or so, being stung over and over and over to the hands until you're overcome with overwhelming pain. And if you can withstand it, then you've gained the ability to become an adult. I say an adult, not a man. They explained to me that this was absolutely open to the young girls to do if they wanted to, but they never do because they think it's stupid. Take from that what you will. What's the best way to defend yourself against a bear in the wild? It depends on the kind of bear. So if you are unlucky enough to come into contact with a polar bear in the wild, then unless you have a deterrent, you are stuffed, because a polar bear is a wholly predatory mammal that will hunt, kill and eat a human being given the chance. So unless you've got bear spray or some serious deterrents, then you're in big trouble. For the most part, grizzlies and black bears will not attack a human being. But if they do, then with grizzlies, you're supposed to lie down and act dead. And with black bears, you're supposed to fight back. Either way, if they really, really want to get you, they're quicker than you, they can climb faster than you, they're bigger, they're heavier, they're stronger, they're more aggressive, they've got bigger teeth, bigger claws. I mean, you just kind of got to pray it doesn't happen, really. What's the longest snake? Sensational question, and oh yes, bring it on. So this is a Burmese python. So the Burmese python is a constrictor. It has the ability to squeeze and squash the life out of its prey. And certainly if this was a wild snake, I wouldn't be able to hold one this size on my own. I wouldn't be able to restrain it on my own. I'd need help. A snake of this size could, unbelievably, eat and swallow in one go without taking bites out of it a small deer. But other very big snakes, like anacondas, can feed on decent-sized crocodiles. They can eat just about anything. They can swallow in one go. And they have the ability to stretch their jaws around their prey and then work their head gently down it so they can swallow it in one go. And then if it's really big, they might take several weeks digesting it. Are all spiders venomous? That's a complicated question because there are at least 50,000 different kinds of spiders. They're one of the most diverse of all animal groups. Probably the best known would be something like this. So this is a Chilean rose tarantula, and it's big, scary looking and hairy, and it does absolutely have venom. Although it's not particularly toxic. It's certainly not as toxic as you get from the funnel webs, the redbacks, the Brazilian wandering spiders, the ones that have really pokey, toxic venom. Of the 50,000 odd different species of spiders, only a handful are not venomous, and only a handful can harm us as human beings. Generally speaking, spiders are one of the most important of all animals, and certainly the majority of flies, midges, mosquitoes are killed by spiders. If we didn't have spiders, then those things would go absolutely rampant and completely destroy our world. The most dangerous British animal is almost certainly the cow. At particularly times of year when you've got female cows that have calves, they can be very protective and they will quite often charge if they feel that they're threatened. And then obviously a big bull is an animal that is not to be trifled with. There's a handful of people killed by cows here in the UK every single year. And they are without question an animal that has to be taken very, very seriously. If you're out walking in the countryside, particularly if you've got a dog with you, always be vigilant, and particularly around about, you know, spring sort of time when the animals are most likely to be grumpy. What's scarier, a great white shark or a saltwater crocodile, and why? So I have dived with both great whites and big crocs outside the cage, and there is no comparison. The great white shark is a relatively predictable animal, and if you can keep your eyes on it and you know where it's going, they'll generally avoid you to get to food that's behind you. They'll swim around you to get a food item that's over your shoulder. And one of the critical things is, if you can keep your eyes on them, even if they do start coming towards you, a hefty bump on the snout with your camera, their snouts are so sensitive that they will just take it and swim away. Whereas a big crocodile, were you to bump that with your camera, it would snap and savage you. So I don't think there's any comparison. I think big sharks are far, far less scary than big crocodiles underwater in their environment.